Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here for our weekly news recap from Behind Enemy Lines on YouTube for now, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized.
You know, we're really just broadcasting. We're like a pirate radio into Enemy Lines because we do have new homes on not necessarily Enemy Lines, like on Rumble and D-Live.
Yes, and you guys should definitely follow us there on Rumble and D-Live. We're also on a few other places, but those are the best ones. So alongside me is my co-host, Fox Trevise. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic here at 3:22 still, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, it's funny that your computer clock died on you.
Yeah, so somehow my taskbar Windows 11 time, I guess that was one of the updates with Windows 11, was sometimes the clock on the taskbar freezes. So I thought I was waiting for 3:30 Eastern, and all of a sudden it's 3:38. I was like, oh heck, my clock had just been stuck at 3:22 for like a good 20 minutes. Am I getting feedback from your side?
Sorry, that's my fault. So I accidentally unplugged my headset by accident. So yeah, they determined that what you really needed in this last update was you didn't need to know what the actual time was.
Yeah, and right before this show started, my taskbar just crashed completely. So Windows 11 just killing it.
Yes, keep it up, Windows 11. Just like every other launch you've had. Perfect.
Yes. And if you want to kill it, you could donate to us financially.
Yes, as many have. Thank you very much, Kaylet, Ori Main, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Thunder Erican, White Lion, Timberwolf, White Wolf, all you guys. Thank you very much. If you guys want to, also, if you don't want to support us financially, you can always just like, share, subscribe, and share that link around because it's the only way we're going to grow.
Yes.
So our first story, well, our first opening comment, how about you get into that for us?
Alrighty. Well, let me, I probably should have timed
Open the link.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm writing it, it makes sense for me to say the thing and then also open the thing. But sometimes it makes more sense for you to, have said the stuff while I have time to prepare the link. But now I got to do both. So, our kind of funny comment / just, I guess, informative video today is, while the strategic reserve of oil is dropping pretty fast lately, the strategic reserve of Kamala Harris getting super high and then stepping in front of a microphone is apparently overflowing. We have no shortages there. This week,
supply.
Yeah, this week Kamala Harris was once again talking about space. Let's watch.
Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions.
So we brought you a similar story about Kamala Harris talking about space last year when Kamala Harris was speaking at the Naval Observatory to a group of paid child actors, which her office tried to pass off as real, genuine children who had won a scientific competition. A science competition. This week, it was not paid actors, but rather Space Force guardians who had been ordered to attend her speech. It sure seems to cost the taxpayer an awful lot of money every time Kamala Harris speaks. Anyways, as fun as this obviously edited clip was, though, well, I don't know if it was obviously edited. I mean, Joe Biden's may just be a floating head out in space. That wouldn't be surprising at all. Here is the fuller length, real version of it.
I think everyone here recognizes how extraordinary space is. Whether it is satellites that orbit the Earth, humans that land on the moon, or telescopes that peer into the furthest reaches of the universe. Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions.
So, Dyer, does that get you excited about space? Oh no. Dyer either left or his microphone is unplugged.
Excuse me.
There it is.
I have a prepared statement for this.
Okay, yeah. So Dyer, does this make you excited about space?
Very excited. I am very much excitement about space and the possibilities and imagination. Space connects us all in peace.
Are you okay, Dyer?
Yes.
Dyer, were you ordered to say that?
That information is classified.
Okay, then. In the same speech, Kamala Harris also talked about that time that she spoke with the leader of Bahrain, which, for the record, is not actually a country on Earth. So
I've met with leaders from around the world, countries like Singapore and France, Bahrain and India.
I can only guess that she's talking about Tehran, which is a city, right? That's the capital of a place.
Or Beirut or Iran or combination of both together. I don't know.
Because Tehran's the capital of Iran, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so like it's not a country. Just I don't know. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, perhaps there is a alien species out there that lives on Bahrain. So it's possible that she met with them. Coincidentally, this week there was this footage released. So it's very. This is footage outside of an aircraft. Somebody with a cell phone. What is this? What is that, Dyer? Is that an object which is flying and is hard to identify?
I can identify it.
You can't identify it.
And it is an aerial object.
I can't identify it either. So, it's possible that these were the Bahrainians coming to visit Kamala Harris. Who knows?
Yes.
I mean,
hopefully they come in peace.
Yes. Well, I mean, anybody with Ron in their name usually doesn't.
Hopefully they don't come to our country's leader and come looking for intelligent species.
There was a joke that, a joke / possibly serious, that if the aliens did want our brains, it makes sense to have Joe Biden as our commander-in-chief because he would be immune to them eating his brain.
Yes, but on the flip side, if they're coming here to seek cooperation and peace, they might think we're too stupid as a species to actually want to interact with us.
Yes, that's true.
Because what kind of species would elect Joe Biden?
Well, we that's debatable.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that was Kamala for the week. Fear not, Joe Biden is coming up in an upcoming segment. Alrighty, so our first big story for the night is Florida Man. Florida Man has taken on...
I'm a huge fan of Florida Man, by the way.
I am a big fan of Florida Man. I am more and more every day. Florida Man needs to run in 2024 because reasons. Mostly reasons is what we're going to cover today, is that he actually does stuff. Every possible Republican that we've had for president has talked about things that they might do, has been in either office for decades and says, well, if you elect me to president, I can finally do all these things, or they're a newcomer and they're saying, well, I got all these fresh ideas, but I'll do them if you elect me. Florida Man's he's not even asking to be elected yet. He's just saying, I'm just doing stuff. I got elected to Florida governor, and I'm just going to do stuff here. And if you guys want me for president sometime in the future, I'll do stuff then too. But as opposed to a do-nothing, DeSantis is a doer. So
in fact, he does more than he promised. When he was actually campaigning for his current office, he didn't say he was going to do all these things. He's over-delivering what he actually promised.
Which is what we want. All right, so... DeSantis had a pretty big week, or a couple of weeks here. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has officially, as of I think yesterday, I think it was signed. No, it was Friday. It was signed into law on Friday in Florida. They have officially stripped Disney of their privileged status that gives them the rights to self-govern and tax exemptions within Florida that is shared by literally no other business in Florida or in the entire country of the United States.
Yes. So they've had this special status, this privileged status, for 55 years. And it allows Disney to collect taxes in their area and to operate public services based off of the taxes they received.
Yeah, and it was the original purpose of it was so that Disney could build this quote-unquote Tomorrowland or City of Tomorrow or something like that. I don't know. Never Land, something like that. And they never actually built this quote-unquote city. And so essentially they got this special status where they were allowed to create their own local government and levy their own local taxes and not pay taxes to the state. They got this under essentially false or fraudulent pretenses. And the second that they shut down their project decades ago for the City of Tomorrow, they should have had that status removed. But
it was actually a very lucrative merger of business and government, actually, where they were able to collect debts like government organizations do, and leveraged their unreceived tax dollars to take down debts to develop their area. They had the benefits of government, but also the benefits of being a private company that wasn't being held to the same standards of their competition. Like, there's no other small businesses that do this similar categories of stuff that they're doing that were being exempted. They are being given favored status to ensure that they had a advantage over all of their competition, and that isn't fair in any way, shape, or form. It's not like someone wants us to establish a new city. No. They wanted to establish a city as an excuse to advantage them above all of their possible competitors.
And apparently that special permission went so far as to include being able to build a nuclear power plant without the typical limitations or waiting periods that other municipalities would have. Not that they were going to do that. It was just that was an example of how broad
it was government without the voting.
Yeah, how broad these special permissions were given to them. Now, in addition to a few other reasons, the reason why this is even happening in the first place is because Disney took aim at several recent Florida policy decisions and legislation that had gone through. Most distinguished of which would have been the anti-groomer bill, the Don't Say Straight bill, the Wait Till 8 bill. Have you heard that one yet, Dyer? The Wait Till 8?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny one. So as you are obviously aware at this point, several weeks ago, Florida passed a bill that essentially pulls all of this sexual indoctrination and child grooming happening in, what was it? Was it preschool through first grade or second grade?
I believe it was third grade. Ends at age 9, though.
Okay. So all of these weird like gender identity things and making children question whether or not they want to have sex with boys or girls or the teacher or a dog or whatever, all of that stuff is not allowed to be talked about with small children. Now, you can wait till 9 and do that, apparently, or wait till 8, as the the saying goes. But you can't do that with kindergartners anymore, and this outraged the left. They said, well, this isn't happening, but it is happening, and so it's bad that you're stopping it from happening, even though it isn't happening. And if it wasn't happening and it is happening, then you're going to kill trans kids. And basically, DeSantis was just holocausting trans kids. That's what the argument was. And Disney chimed in with that. They were against Florida, the Florida legislature. They were against what DeSantis said. They were calling out that DeSantis was, outlawing homosexuality, that he was killing trans kids and all this stuff. And DeSantis said, well, you know what? You guys want to play politics? That's fine. We can play politics too. You guys want to comment on the Florida legislature? Well, you are very much dependent on laws that the Florida legislature passed, such as a special tax provision, which one of the biggest benefits of the special tax districts that they were in is that Disney World, I believe it was Disney World, or is it Disneyland? I can never remember which one's
World.
which. Disney World sits in this tax district, and all of the money that they make in Disney World, which is rather substantial, is not taxed at the local level because they are in the special zone. So that was a very, very lucrative deal for them. And DeSantis said, well, you know, if you guys want to play politics, that's fine. We'll play politics too. You want to take a shot at the current governor? Well, don't be surprised when the current governor takes a shot right back at you.
I think that it's been a long time coming that they shouldn't have had these special privileges, these special advantages given by the government to ensure that this company was more successful than any other competitor. I think that has been a long time coming and going away, and that it shouldn't have taken this incident to happen, but I'm glad it did. I mean, you know what? It might have just been the fact that this kind of shone a light on that, right?
Exactly. You know, and I think that sometimes certain privileges can be given. A lot of this is simply just removing regulation the government otherwise has. But that's the problem with government regulation, is that the more government regulation that you have, the more opportunity government regulators have to carve out these special exemptions and give special privileges to certain groups that other groups don't have. Like, for instance, Direwolf Media has to pay taxes. We don't get to build our own city. It should be kind of irrelevant whether or not we've got the lobbying capacity to convince somebody that. But if Disney's allowed to do it, we should be allowed to do it too. And if we're not allowed to do it, then no one should be allowed to do it. If the government is going to be regulating industry, then it ought regulate it in the exact same way for everybody and not be giving out these special permissions. So the left has claimed that this status, removing the status from Disney, creating, because again, Disney basically was able to create their own city there. Removing that special status from Disney will now saddle Florida with all of the municipal debts that Disney had accrued over the last 50 years, which constitutes about $1 billion of Walt Disney debt.
Walt. Sorry.
Thanks, Dyer. But why exactly is this why would this be a problem, Dyer?
Well, why did we allow them to collect those debts in the first place? And then why would the city governments are taking over that area now be responsible for Walt Disney's personal debt? And if they meant Disney as in the company's debt, well, then why would they adopt the company's debt? It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, so the reason why they think that this is going to happen is because Disney created a city. They were able to create municipal city bonds as their debt load. Instead of getting like a traditional bank loan, it was a municipal city debt bond. And typically city municipal bonds are backed by the state that they're in. So at some point when Disney issued these bonds, this $1 billion worth of bonds, it's likely that the state of Florida said that they would back those bonds. And then now that the state of Florida is ripping Disney's status away and those municipal bonds, a company can't typically issue municipal bonds, so it wouldn't really be legal for Disney to hang on to those bonds. I'll get to what they could do in a second here. It technically or theoretically wouldn't be legal for Disney Corporation to hold municipal bonds because they aren't a municipality anymore.
That's what I'm getting at.
However, if you can undo this with legislation, all it requires is adding a little caveat to that legislation: is we are undoing the municipal status of city or of Disney, and we are in the same law. We are going to convert all of their municipal bonds to private loans, and now Disney owes the government X dollars for whatever.
So my point is, it was not a real problem, because if these bonds' debt is backed by the state had allowed it in the first place and said that they would back it. So those debts are still valid and are owed to the state. Or if the state wants to make sure that Disney is held accountable for the debts that they created with their permission, then they can choose to change the current laws to make it so that they are held responsible for the debts that they accrued. But the debts were for, I assume, services that for the governments of that area. So people who live in that area were the ones hypothetically benefiting from the money being raised by those debts, right?
Yeah.
They receive those services. The government that is taking over the area still is taking over the existing services and the benefits of those loans. I don't see why it's a problem that a government that now has more land and more services and more, like, everything that was purchased with that money, is probably still there, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, one of the things that you could do is if you can give Disney a special tax exemption, you could certainly levy against them a special additional tax, right? If it can go one way, it can go the other way. So if maybe a solution to this is for the next 20 years, Disney has to pay extra state income tax. I mean, that would be a way to solve the problems until they pay off the bonds. There's a lot of different things that could be done here. The argument was essentially that the extra, the $1 billion of debt that Disney has would equate to something like $2,000 per taxpayer, or no, per household. And somebody had said, well, you know, if we can get rid of the groomers and it just costs $2,000 per household, I think a lot of people would take that deal. So,
and that debt existed before. It still was a debt that was levied against the government. The government still had to pay it. It doesn't matter that now the unelected business is no longer allowed to be the government. The government that's taking over is still responsible for it, right?
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that you could do is also you could force Disney or equate it to a city declaring a form of bankruptcy, under which point the municipal bonds it issued would just go away. And the people holding those bonds would have to realize the loss, and, you know, sucks for them, but that would be that. The debt would just disappear.
So it's not going to be everyone paying $2,000, is the point I'm saying.
Well, and even if they did, it would be like you'd be levying that over the course of like decades. I mean, this $1 billion of debt, like, it wasn't expected to be, those are probably 50 to 100-year bonds. So, like, you're talking about $2,000 per household over the course of 50 years. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, I am sure that the denizens of Florida will happily take that deal. That is a deal that they will take tomorrow if they can stop Disney from trying to get groomers and pedophiles into their school system, which apparently has been a rather big issue. A story from not too many months ago, a Florida sheriff had done a sting operation in which they had not entrapped but captured and discovered a ring of 108 pedophiles that were grooming and collecting children, and all 108 of them were Disney employees. So you know, it's not just that Disney wants to have grooming in the schools, it's that they are also apparently a safe space to work if you are also a groomer yourself, kind of like CNN. Not
that this change in information is going to matter, but I was told it was a large portion of, not all, of the 108. But it doesn't really matter. At this point, it doesn't really change the point of what you're saying.
Yeah. Alrighty. So what else we got here, Dyer?
Just going over the last week, DeSantis banned classroom instruction on the sexual orientation of gender identity for children under age 9, aka grooming children, as we covered before. And that was, we covered all three parts, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So big wins for DeSantis is, again, getting the Wait Till 8 bill issued, getting the banning of the transgender hormones and transition therapy or surgery, banning that, which to go into a little bit more detail on that, the context in that is that 2 or 3 weeks ago, the White House issued new guidelines for medically transitioning children, including mastectomies, removing penises, doing all kinds of crazy, horrific things to 6-year-olds. This was medical guidance for like prepubescent children, including among that list I just mentioned, some of the lighter things would be just giving them hormone therapy, which is also very damaging to their endocrine system. So the White House issued guidance that this is all okay, this is all above board, even though all of these drugs, all the hormone replacement drugs, are off-label when you're using them for transitioning children or puberty blocking. All of the medical techniques are experimental and not really approved of in most other areas. So the White House said, yeah, we can go ahead and do that. If any local doctor is going against these guidelines, is going against chopping off the genitals of 6-year-olds, then they are in breach of the DOJ, et cetera, will come for them. And so DeSantis, in response to that, along with the Florida legislature, they passed a law in direct contravention of that. So
guidance. It was guidance.
Yeah, so directly contravening that, saying not in Florida. And Florida is essentially the exact opposite of what the White House had said. Florida said, nope, not here. You're not going to give hormone blockers to children. You're not going to medically transition them by cutting or removing or adding parts to their bodies. Nope, you got to wait till 18 on that one. Not allowed to do that in Florida. And this is great because now, if the White House wants to go against that, the DOJ is going to have to sue Florida. They'll have to test this at the Supreme Court level, and then we'll know for sure across the board. We'll know across all 50 states whether or not the White House and the federal government is allowed to issue this guidance, or if states are allowed to say, no, you're not allowed to experiment on children in our state. At which point I would hope to see a flood of laws that say that. And I would like to see some more states following DeSantis's lead on this transitioning these transitioning surgeries as well. So that was some big wins for DeSantis. And as we opened up the segment saying, he's a doer. He's doing stuff, and he's not doing it alone. He's got a lot of people in the Florida legislature that don't really get their names out there very often. But I'm hoping that Florida is kind of an incubation area for the next generation of the Republican Party. People that are conservative, that are doing conservative things, not overusing the government to beat their enemies over their head or go after weird interest groups, or to just boost up their newest favorite corporation, but actually protecting people from the government. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. And it would seem that Florida is now an incubation grounds for that, where we will hopefully be seeing a DeSantis in the White House at some point in the next decade, and hopefully a lot of these Florida state legislators being brought up into the national legislature. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I want to clarify that Ron DeSantis released this week new guidance from the Florida Department of Health that advised healthcare professionals against performing genital mutilation or life-altering hormone replacement therapy and gender-altering experimentation on children. Now, it is not a law that is actionable. Like, if a doctor were to do this surgery in Florida right now, they won't go to jail. They're being told that it is advised against, and they are recommend they not do these surgeries, and it gives a whole bunch of reasons why, how destructive it is. It gives a strong justification for why these services, it's a long document, are harmful. All of them are harmful. Unfortunately, I don't think that DeSantis was able to pass, or the Florida legislature were able to pass a law regarding punishing doctors for doing these things, because I don't think they had the ability to do it.
Well, I would guess the guidelines that those could be referenced in lawsuits and possibly on medical licensing boards. And so this will make doctors stop and pause. Step. Yeah. Yeah.
So this could also be used later on when someone's trying to sue the hospital or sue the doctor for saying, hey, you did this thing that you knew was harmful to, like, you had a guidance from the government saying all the ways this is untested, experimental, and known to be harmful, and you did it to my kid anyway. You advised us to do it.
The more likely scenario is that this will be used by the children, the children that were experimented on in their adulthood. We're starting
It's already happening.
Yeah, so we're starting to see this, and this is going to be a much bigger trend in the UK in the next couple of years, and then it'll start in the US a couple of years later. The UK was out ahead of us a little bit on doing transgender conversions for young children. Hopefully we can stop that here before we get as far down the trail as the UK did. But the UK is starting to have some of these children that were experimented upon have grown up, and they are now looking, and they don't really have a lot of legal leg to stand on in the UK, but they're looking for some kind of retribution to what was done to them. In the US, we are a very litigious country, and I guarantee you in the next couple of years, you are going to see a wave, like they've never could imagine, a wave of lawsuits coming from these children that were mutilated and had their entire sexual potential destroyed, cut off by these doctors performing horrific experiments on them. And you're going to see lawsuits. And stuff like what DeSantis is doing is going to be laying the groundwork for those lawsuits to actually take hold and move forward.
Yeah, if the greatest injustice in our time was and is abortion, the second one might be the destruction of people's lives through the brainwashing, social engineering, and literally mutilating of their genitals.
Yep. All righty. Ready for our next one?
Yes.
All right.
Is it a lighter topic?
Yeah, social media. All right.
Perfect.
So last week, or no, actually 2 weeks ago, because we skipped last week. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about Elon Musk, who is the, I believe his correct title is Lord Commander of the Martian Empire. He had purchased about 9%, a little over 9% of all of Twitter stock that was in existence. Musk had been more than a little outspoken about his views on censorship and cancel culture on the Twitter platform. Predictably, this made Twitter and lovers of censorship and cancel culture very nervous. Ooh.
Yes, because of this nervousness, the Twitter board of directors offered Musk a board position. Ooh, schwanky. This would have prevented Musk from purchasing more than 14% ownership in Twitter, and the board would then have been able to limit Musk's influence by outvoting him in every decision. Also, there would be requirements that they could actually silence him from talking about things going on in Twitter. This would have also limited Musk's ability to speak, and would have been he could Twitter policy, as he could have been accused of damaging the stock value and been sued by investors.
After our last show, Musk officially declined his board position that he was offered.
Good.
And instead made an offer to buy not 14%, but 100% of the company in a hostile takeover. This hostile takeover of Twitter would have cost the Martian Emperor $43 billion. Musk is worth something like $260 billion. So it really wouldn't have been a big deal for him to do it. And at this point, there was very, very real fear that he was going to move forward with this and actually just hostilely buy all of Twitter.
Twitter's board of directors created what is known as a poison pill. The only important part of this is to know that they created a new rule that if Elon tried to buy any more Twitter stock, it would trigger the creation of new stock, which would dilute the existing pool and Elon's control of the company. However, this was stupid, as Elon has enough money to just keep buying the stock, and the creation of new stock would dramatically drop the value of stock already held by investors,
and make it easier for him to buy more.
Which also things like it kind of harm their fiduciary responsibilities of ensuring that they do what's best for the stockholders.
Yes, it would. Which is, oddly enough, the board of directors of Twitter, I think that there's about 6 of them, 6 or 8 of them maybe, and collectively they own like 20 shares of Twitter. Like some of them don't own any Twitter at all.
I find it really strange that I thought there was going to be more than 6 directors. I'm sorry. I thought there was a larger group of directors for a large company.
Yeah, well, apparently it doesn't take very much to run it into the ground.
But the more concerning thing is what you said, is that they're actually not invested in the company themselves. So when they run into the ground, they're not personally affected by it.
Correct. They don't actually have a stake in it themselves personally. Let's see here. So after Elon said that he was going to just hostily take it over, and the board decided they were going to issue a poison pill, a lot of additional participants entered the fight. So Goldman Sachs tried to say that Elon had undervalued the company at I think it was 46 billion was what it was. I think I mistyped that earlier. Goldman said that Elon had undervalued the company at $46 billion and that it was worth much, much more than that, which was funny because a Goldman Sachs article that was just regular investor advice from a few months prior had listed Twitter as a chronically underperforming company, citing that Twitter is one of the chief offenders of underperformance, and they targeted its stock value at under $30 billion.
Are they lying then or lying now?
Yeah, so you gotta choose your fighter. Which Goldman Sachs do you believe? Do you believe Goldman Sachs from 3 months ago, or do you believe Goldman Sachs from 3 weeks ago? I don't know. It's hard to say. So the financial media and blue check Twitter also chipped in to say that it was wrong for a billionaire like Elon Musk to buy and own a company like Twitter. It's just too important for the public discourse for a billionaire to own. Jeff Bezos' Washington Post, a newspaper owned by a billionaire, also echoed the sentiment that it was wrong for a billionaire to own a place like Twitter.
Cry as they might, the tears were not enough to stop the Musk rat, who over the weekend was reportedly he reportedly secured $46 billion needed to buy out the company completely. Time will tell what will come of this, but love him or hate him, Musk's leadership of Twitter cannot possibly be any worse than how they are currently being led.
Definitely.
And that's for everyone involved. Like, everyone who uses Twitter, it is less good because of the current board of directors. And anyone who's invested in Twitter right now, they should be praising Musk because he's the only chance they have of actually raising this stock value.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of concern about things that Musk has done and said in the past or is doing currently. There's a lot of reports of translating what he has said on Chinese social media Huawei in support of the regime there. And that is all I hear and accept the concerns, and I am concerned about that as well. However, the idea that China would require Musk to buy out Twitter for the glory of the Chinese empire when China already has the current leadership there, I don't know that makes sense. I am concerned, as everybody else I'm sure is, of some of the things that Musk has said positively about China. However, I don't think that his purchase of Twitter is a ploy for some kind of Chinese takeover of it. I think it currently is heavily influenced by countries like China, dictatorships that have no freedom of speech, that have no liberty. So I don't think that the risk that Musk is doing this for nefarious purposes is lower than the risk of Twitter just continuing as is. At minimum, we will see some kind of mix-up of Twitter for the next few years, which during that mix-up, perhaps the right culture can kind of retake hold of that space.
Fox, tell me, how much more could left-wing politics, Twitter's leadership, and our current government be influenced by China? Are we already at the peak?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, like, could you imagine if China took over Twitter? Like, I mean, it might be less.
They might start affecting elections.
Oh my God, that'd be terrible. Oh no. Yeah, like Twitter installed a president. Regardless of what you think the vote count was, a big portion of why the vote count was anywhere near what it was because Twitter they banned a newspaper, an old newspaper, like 150-year-old
and the president.
Yeah, and the president, from talking about a very real scandal about Joe Biden and his family and how they were tied in with China. So the idea that like it could possibly get worse is just I can't imagine it, and I think even if it does get worse, if somehow Elon just makes it even worse during the time that he's buying it out, during the mix-up period, it will be better or at least easier for people to get back on that platform and to hopefully shift the culture in the direction that it needs to be shifted.
It doesn't matter whether or not you believe the vote count was correctly counted or that there was fraud, because they've already admitted that there was a cabal of companies, including Twitter and media companies, that limited what information the populace was allowed to see. And you know, one of the easiest ways to control a person and their actions and to predict their actions is to limit what information they have available to them. If you can control someone's information, they will make a rational decision, usually within a spectrum, based off of the information that is available to them. So just control what they know, and you will know what they will do. And that's what they're doing. And they were able to manipulate a large portion of the country who were limited in what information they had available to make sure that enough people voted for Biden to at least make it close.
Exactly. So Musk's persistence in this, I'll pour more and more money into it. That's fine. His persistence has got the liberal establishment even more scared. This week, former President Obama even stepped into the fray to call for more government regulations on companies like Twitter. All of a sudden, it becomes really important that Obama talk about regulating social media companies. I wonder why. Because, of course, the only way to ensure freedom of speech is by limiting free speech.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Makes sense.
Let's see here. So, go ahead.
I mean, are we sure that Obama isn't actually the president anyways?
We have a whole segment of that coming up as to who the real president is, so we'll just save that one. We'll save that one. Let's see here. So, former Twitter CEO and creator Jack Dorsey also chimed in this week to say that CNN had faked a news story during the Ferguson riots.
What? The CNN faked a news story?
Well, hold on.
Is it
just during the Ferguson riots? He broke his silence. How long ago were the Ferguson riots, Dyer?
Like 7 or more years ago.
Okay. So apparently Jack Dorsey had been sitting on this information that he had personally witnessed CNN fabricate an event at the
also,
Ferguson
a whole crowd of people saw it, and we also caught video. Calling CNN out about it.
Yeah. So after all of the things that Jack has done and not done over the last 7 years, he finally has come out to say that he witnessed CNN make something up 7 years ago.
Yeah, the broken communist clock can be right, twice a day.
Yeah. Now some people are saying that this is the start of Jack's comeback arc. This is his comeback tour. He's going to be freedom-loving Jack again. And I say no, shut the hell back. Shut the hell up, Jack. Go back to your yoga cave. Nobody cares what you have to say about CNN 7 years ago. I mean, by gosh. This is just him coming back, trying to chase clout, trying to get himself back into the media. He's starting or joining some kind of blockchain venture or something like that. And all he's doing right now is just trying to get his name back into the news because Jack Dorsey has not been a relevant actor in the culture for, probably about 7 years.
Yep.
All right. So Elon... not attempting, but just going through. I'm not going to call this an attempted takeover of Twitter because he will win. So we're just in the process of taking over Twitter. So Elon's being in the process of taking over Twitter is happening at an auspicious time. You may have heard this week that the Libs of TikTok account was doxxed. Yep. Who was it doxxed by? Well, we have... an interesting thing, because we just covered this, I believe, a few weeks ago. So this is Taylor Lorenz, and we covered her a few weeks ago because of this clip in an interview from, I think, about a month ago.
I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad. You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life.
Like you.
And it's so isolating.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry.
So that was Taylor Lorenz. Taylor Lorenz has made her career off of doxing essentially teenage Twitch streamers. That's kind of her bread and butter. She's gone a little bit older sometimes, but she has very much so gone through and tried to find Twitch streamers, popular YouTubers, anybody that she can, especially anonymous people, and find just one teeny little clip that they said, play it out of context, and then release their full name, their address, their place of work, and names and members of their family. And what was also funny about this, so this was a segment that she did on MSNBC last month. What was also funny about this is you can see the chyron at the bottom says 1 in 3 women under 35 experience online harassment. What was funny is that Taylor Lorenz is 49. So she's not under 35. So the reason why she was saying that she was being attacked is because, well, she was doxing children. And so people are saying like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you're a bad person. And maybe they use some stronger language than you're a bad person, because that's what you should do to people who dox children. And so she was saying, well, I've got PTSD from that. So she is claiming to have PTSD from being doxxed. That's one of the things that other people have done to her. We don't agree with that, but if you play with fire, don't be surprised when other people fight you with fire.
But then what about all the people that she doxed? Should they also have PTSD? Like, does she care about their well-being?
Well, clearly she does not, because this week she released an article doxing the creator and maintainer of Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok, as you may know, is a curator of TikTok videos. kind of self-explanatory there. But typically these are TikTok videos that are leftists saying things that leftists say, exposing a lot of teachers. The Libs of TikTok account has been very useful for everybody in conservative commentary over the past year, as the fight against groomers and pedophiles has gotten more fervent. And so a lot of these videos that we play and that you see played on other commentators' channels of these teachers talking about how, they want to talk about their, weird 5 ways and their sexual kinks and cutting off their genitals to small children, to kindergarteners and things like that, and how they are trying to make children gay and all of this stuff. That was all
my not so secret gay agenda.
Exactly. Well, that one wasn't from TikTok, but
no,
you named the only video that wasn't from TikTok.
I know.
Oh my God, Dyer. So a lot of those were found and curated by Libs of TikTok. As Ben Shapiro described it, and I happen to agree, is that, for us to find these videos, we would have to sit down and watch, probably 10 hours of TikTok just to find these 2 or 3 videos that really highlight what it is the left is doing. And one of the criticisms of Libs of TikTok is that it was a wire service for the far right, to which my response is, yeah, and what is the problem with having a wire service for the right? The left has their wire services, which is literally every media outlet. Why shouldn't the right have a wire service?
Because it's different rules. They're allowed. They want to be able to indoctrinate. We're not allowed to even speak. It's a simple rule.
So Taylor Lorenz doxed the creator of Libs of TikTok this week by releasing her name, her home address, her work address, and also Taylor Lorenz visited and maybe stalked several family members of the creator of Libs of TikTok. So there was some backlash from that, as you guys probably are aware, and we'll read through this Daily Wire article here just to get some of the highlights here. So Babylon Bee CEO Seth Dillon made it clear on Tuesday that he stood with the woman behind the often viral Libs of TikTok account, and that he believed she would weather the storm brought on by a Washington Post article attacking her and revealing her identity. Dyer, what is the income bracket of the person that owns the Washington Post?
Quite wealthy, I'd say. Definitely
billionaires. Maybe?
Definitely a billionaire. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely a billionaire. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So the article was written by Taylor Lorenz, who, in an ironic twist, broke down during a recent MSNBC interview, which we just played, while complaining about threats and online bullying. She claimed had targeted her. She argued that it was necessary to expose the woman behind Libs of TikTok. Quote, at Libs of TikTok has become a powerful... also, Taylor Lorenz... Oh, she did do it. Okay, never mind. They just quoted it wrong. I was going to say she didn't put the period in front of the @ sign, which means that it wouldn't have gone out public, but she did in the main thread. It's just Daily Wire didn't copy it the right way. All right, so... Taylor Lorenz tweeted out, at Libs of TikTok has become a powerful cross-platform social media influencer, spreading anti-LGBTQ sentiment and fueling the right-wing media's outrage machine. I wrote about it, the account, the woman behind it, and why it matters. Now, I think actually Taylor Lorenz and people who conflate LGBTQ stuff with pedophiles, I think that they're the ones actually spreading anti-LGBTQ sentiment.
Yep.
However, so she wrote this article here, and let's see here. So, but Dylan wasn't buying Lorenz's argument, and he published back in a Twitter thread of his own. The exposure of Libs of TikTok isn't journalism. It's pure intimidation. They're threatened by her effectiveness, so they hoped to silence her by making her too afraid to continue. Dylan began. Oops, that's the wrong person. There we go. Quote, they want to raise the cost of doing her work so high that she has no choice but to quit. But I think that they'll be surprised by her resolve, he continued. She's afraid, as anyone would be in these circumstances, but she's also determined to not be bullied, threatened, or harassed into silence. That takes remarkable courage that few people possess. I'll also add, outside this Daily Wire article, is that Steven Crowder of Louder with Crowder had mentioned this week, obviously in full support of Libs of TikTok, that Louder with Crowder had been working with Libs of TikTok much prior to this event happening, and that since it's happened, there may be news about Libs of TikTok and Louder with Crowder sometime in the future, that they had been working towards something. He didn't say what it was, but it seemed very obvious from the context that there was potentially an opportunity, a job opportunity at Louder with Crowder for the Libs of TikTok creator, that possibly there was some kind of merger or something of that nature, and that now that Libs of TikTok has been doxxed and exposed, it's possible that she may need even more support, and Crowder has vowed to give her as much of it as he can.
That's the most important part right there, because right now the left are very good at shielding each other and helping each other in doing the batshit crazy stuff they do, and then they go after and they pick off conservatives, trying to destroy them and silence them one at a time. And it's important that we be able to back up and support people who are, on our side of being rational people who don't want to, hurt kids or, do whatever the LGBT community agenda they have is. There's so many things wrong with it. I don't like to make a long list. But anyways, going against their dangerous politics, we need to defend and support people so they don't have the ability of the left has had to destroy lives no longer is as effective. Now, one of the craziest things about this is Libs of TikTok, all they're doing is taking the leftist words and is letting a different audience see them. That's all they did. They didn't do any commentary or anything. They didn't make any criticism. They just put a magnifying glass on what they are saying, and that was so objectionable. Their own words were too objectionable to be seen.
Exactly. So Dylan of Babylon Bee went on to say that he expected to see a lot of people rallying to support her as well, adding that he had worked out a deal with her to make sure that she could continue her work. Quote, I think they'll be surprised. They'll also be surprised by the support she receives. I want them to know that she won't be canceled from her job because this, quote, is her job now. I've worked out a deal with her that will turn her heroic high-risk work into a career. Quote, they have exposed her, but they'll never stop her. Long live Libs of TikTok, he continued. So it sounds like Babylon Bee is also looking at offering her support, possibly a job, possibly some kind of merger, which is fantastic. As Crowder said, he's got a team of researchers, but no one does better research than Libs of TikTok on finding that category of videos. They basically, as do all conservative outlets, us included, rely on Libs of TikTok for certain stories, for bringing clips that highlight, hey, this is what they're saying behind the scenes. Hey, these are teachers talking about they want to secretly convert your kids to have a trans identity, and ways that they're going to go about subverting it. A lot of the pedophilia and grooming that we've found and covered was found through Libs of TikTok. The one I'm thinking of in particular is that teacher who had a special magic closet that he would send his kindergarten students into, where they could, quote, change into clothes that represented their gender identity, which was a little strange that an adult man would have a magic closet where kindergarten children would change their clothes.
Sounds very rapey to me.
Yeah, sounds like rape. So that's where the stuff gets found at. So it sounds like Libs of TikTok. It sounds like, based off the article that was doxing her. Again, we're not going to go into that specific article or cover any of that. And there's a bunch of controversy around that we're going to try and stay out of. But it sounds like she had a real estate business beyond doing this Libs of TikTok thing. It's not even clear that Libs of TikTok was really monetizable. It's only been around for about a year. So it's not even clear that she was monetizing it, though it is something that definitely could be monetized. And it sounds like even if her real estate career may be done after this, she certainly has a place at a lot of different outlets to continue doing the work that she loves, and not getting canceled, not allowing the left to be successful in scalping her and putting her on a pike.
Yeah. Thankfully, real estate is a very self-driven job, and there's a good possibility that they can't actually cancel her from her current position.
Yeah. So this article concludes with she, being the Libs of TikTok lady. She posted a statement saying that she was, quote, holed up in a safe location because since she was doxxed by the Washington Post, her address, she had to leave her home address for a little while because of the death threats rolling in. Words cannot express how appreciative I am of the support I'm receiving right now. Thankfully, I'm currently holed up in a safe location. I'm confident that we'll get through this and come out even stronger. Grateful for all the thoughts and prayers, she said. Well, I certainly think that she'll end up fine, but this represents an obvious tactic the left uses. They will sit there, as you just saw Taylor Lorenz, and cry, fake cry on camera.
Cry bully.
Yeah. Fake cry on camera that, they're harassing me. Poor me. I'm just trying to dox people, and they're doxing me back. I'm such a victim at this, giant newspaper owned by the billionaire that owned Amazon. And the reality of it is that they're going after, just regular people. And the only reason why they haven't gone after you yet is because they haven't found you yet. But they'll get you eventually.
She's the SS colonel who leads the jackboots of the left.
Taylor Lorenz is, yeah.
She is, yeah. She is the one who is organizing the jackboots for the billionaire powerful class, the elites. She's going out there and punishing their opponents who are just average people with middle class people and lower, going out there and crushing the enemies of the billionaires, and by organizing the jackboots who are going to harass them. That she is part of the establishment of power who is trying to crush the little guy, and she's the one crying that she's a victim.
Yep. And it's funny because the left has the FBI and probably some other organizations that are able to leverage the power of the intelligence state to search and scour your social media and then maybe try to frame you for kidnapping a governor. And so, they'll just use your own words against you. Well, we've got Libs of TikTok. She just scours left-wing social media, which no one is scouring, no one in the government's scouring. And then she just finds and highlights their own words and we can use them against them, just, replaying their own words. So the left already has several services that do the exact same thing that Libs of TikTok does, and you can tell that's one of their most effective tactics against us, is trying to scour our social media and to find things that we say and try to take them out of context and use them against us, because as soon as Libs of TikTok does anything similar, which I would argue that taking it out of context is not true, because she typically posts the entire TikTok of stuff, so it's in context. That you can tell that we're over target. That Libs of TikTok was over target based off of the reaction of, we have to end this person, we have to dox them, we have to dox all their family members, we have to dox their business account, all of this stuff just to get rid of her. And I am glad that the right-wing commentary sphere has been monetized enough to the point where she can now have several offers of a stable career path moving forward. And that's great that we're able to do that. It's awful that we have to do that, but it's great that we're able to do that.
Yeah. We definitely support her, and we need to support anyone who is also doing the kind of work she's doing. Real journalism, actually. And yeah, we're proud of what she's doing.
Yep. Real journalists like MSNBC. You ready for a next story here, Dyer?
Yep.
So,
yeah, real journalism.
Real journalism. So, MSNBC, they're going to war. All the other media outlets, they're just talking about going to war. MSNBC is going to war with Russia. They're putting their blood where their mouth is. Malcolm Nance. Malcolm Nance is a counterterrorist. Well, his title is counterterrorism expert. I don't want to overstate it.
He calls himself that.
Yes. Malcolm Nance, who some people call a counterterrorism expert.
We don't call him that. Other people do.
Other people call him that. And former MSNBC analyst, former as in like 2 weeks ago, former counterterrorism expert from MSNBC has joined the International Ukrainian Military Unit, IUMU.
It's not called that. So
MU.
I think it's funny though that there is an entire unit within Ukraine made up of foreign nationals.
Did you hear that they stopped receiving foreign nationals for that unit because the people that were coming were so
incompetent,
unqualified to do it that it was more of a danger, even if they were just using them as chattel?
Yeah, actually, they said that they were now only accepting true military professionals, and yeah, they still accepted this guy.
Which Malcolm Nance is a true something. So Malcolm Nance says that he is, quote, done talking about America needing to support the Ukrainians, and that he's going to take action to defend Ukraine himself. He's clearly an expert. Check out this video of him calling out the caliber of the cruise missiles that aren't there. I mean, Dyer, how much of a military expert do you got to be to know the caliber of a cruise missile just by looking at it?
I mean, also looking at it for the first time apparently, because he's never seen a fast mover before.
Well, let's watch. I'm getting ahead of myself
here. You have to be an expert, way more than
Russians
I. Russians
now have to understand Ukraine's unique territory.
Is that going down?
No, but I've never seen a fast mover. Are we in an air raid?
Yes. Yeah, we are. We had the air raid. So there's another coming.
Wait, there'll be 3. Stand by. Wait for one more. They're fired in 30-second intervals. They fire them in 30-second intervals. Smoke.
There we go.
Stand by. 3, cruise missile caliber.
Look.
Stand by. Stand by. 4.
4.
Let's see him. There he is. There he is.
There it is. Those pigeons. Get them. Get those pigeons.
Let's go.
Let's go there.
Not a cruise missile with the pigeon.
Let's go there.
So, Dyer, I won't ask if you've ever been in an air raid, but if you have to ask the question, are you in an air raid?
No.
Was that you cut out a little bit?
No. If you're having to ask whether you're if you're in an air raid right now, then you're not. Also, if you
it's actually the first
around,
sign of not being in an air raid is if you can ask the question.
Yeah, if you're walking around nonchalant, pointing into the sky at what you think might be a missile, you're probably not in an air raid. The way their behavior shows the reality that is not how people would react if they are being bombed at the moment. So. I'm sorry. We said he was an expert, but clearly he's an idiot and has no idea what he's talking about.
What are the different calibers of cruise missile, Dyer?
You don't refer to cruise missiles as by their caliber, but also I'm not sure he's talking about cruise missiles because he used a bunch of mixed terminology that was really confusing.
Yeah, so based off our research on his background, we think he was Navy at one point a very long time ago because he's about 60 right now.
He's a Navy analyst, yeah. Or was.
Were. Obviously, he wasn't analyzing cruise missiles. What's a fast mover, Dyer?
Fast mover usually would be referred to in this context a jet aircraft, but it could also refer to a blitzkrieg style movement of vehicles or fast moving of troops. But generally in this context, it would be a fighter jet.
And do they launch
rockets.
Those every 30 seconds?
No. No, not like that. That doesn't make sense. So it's not. He could have been talking about a fighter jet because then he's talking about 30-second intervals. Now that sounds like he's talking about a Russian vehicle missile launch platform firing a volley of missiles. In which case, he's not talking about a cruise missile. But he said cruise missiles, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he called it by a caliber. Now caliber, you talk about artillery shells in caliber sense, not about cruise missile. So he used a lot of mixed terminology. I have no clue what he's talking about, but you take all the conflicting statements together, and the only thing you can really know for sure is he has no idea what he's talking about, and he's not really getting air raided because of their behavior. Nonchalantly walk around trying to take pictures with their camera phones and talking about it.
I mean, let's listen to this one more time here, because this it takes a second to really let it sink in here.
Is that going down?
No, but I've never seen a fast mover. Are we in an air raid?
Yes. Yeah, we are. We had the air raid. So there's another coming.
Wait, there'll be 3. Stand by. Wait for one more. They're fired in 30-second intervals. They fire them in 30-second intervals. Smoke.
There we go.
Stand by. 3.
Stand by for what?
Caliber. Look. Stand by.
Well, you got to stand by because they're obviously he's commanding some kind of action, right? So like,
right.
That's what you would stand by for, right?
What was the preparatory command of stand by for? Unless you have something you can actually do in response to this air raid that did not really happen.
Well, I know that you guys have this technology where you can kind of like paint targets with a laser. So like maybe there's like some kind of super advanced target painting system where you just karate chop your arm in the general direction of a cruise missile and.
Well, he is an analyst. Maybe he has this new technology where he can hand paint targets,
Yeah.
Finger paint, maybe. Finger painting, that's what he's doing.
Yeah. Now, so again, thank you for your service, Malcolm Nance, but clearly he is just playing soldier now. The tone and tenor of, the mixed terminology, him standing up saying, giving out weird commands of stand by and pointing out smoke, okay, with no actionable after effects here. Clearly he is just kind of reliving the glory days as an analyst. He probably wasn't seeing a lot of action, right, Dyer?
Yeah.
And so he's finally getting to do what the combat guys do and get to feel cool. And it just seems like this is all for show. Clearly, he's putting on a little bit of theatrics because he knows that he's on camera. And if he wants to go over there, that's fantastic. But we don't have to respect his military prowess for doing so.
Right. Though we do 1,000% support sending communists
Nazi fags.
How dare you?
That was loud.
Why would you do that?
The only cruise missile he saw was Pigeon Poo.
Maybe he thinks cruise missiles are any object that can move to or from a cruise ship. He spent too much time doing commercials for Royal Caribbean cruise ships with their buffets and missiles.
Well, possibly one of the things that we didn't cover this week is Joe Biden getting pooped on by a pigeon. So maybe he was just concerned, because we know that that can be a very deadly weapon when dropped from a pigeon, a cruise missile.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the donation and the comment, Triumvirate. We always appreciate that.
Thank you very much. So again, we support 100%, 1,000% sending journalists / communists to go fight the Ukrainians for the Ukrainian sovereignty. And, instead of sending me, go ahead. Yeah. If you're advocating for it, go do it.
Yeah, you don't got a lot of MSNBC analysts that are conservative. So, the likelihood that he is a communist, the likelihood that he participated in, supported, we don't know a lot about his background with MSNBC, because it might surprise you that Dyer and I don't regularly watch MSNBC, especially their war analysis. But you can imagine the types of things that an MSNBC war analyst would have been saying during the Trump era, and I'm sure he was all a part of that. And so, again, as Dyer said, the media loves sending guys like Dyer to go die for a better ratings quarter, and just ginning up all of this war fervor here at home so that we're more amicable. There's more public support to doing that, to spending billions more, trillions more on the military industrial complex, to sending out foreign aid, to sending Dyer to die again. You got to make sure you send Dyer to die. So
as many times as possible, right?
Exactly. So if the media that is 100% responsible for that, for generations, just imagine just the Middle East all on its own. That can be its whole own little thing. We got into that basically completely because the media helped gin up false stories, helped pass off fake intel analysis as real truth to get the American people ready for war. And then we did. Then we got into this 20-year boondoggle, thousands of soldiers dying, trillions of dollars spent for nothing. So if the journalists that are part of that industry, that are, basically the marketing arm of the military industrial complex, if they are so high on their own supply that they want to go fight in the war themselves, they're tired of asking Dyer to go do it for them, they're going to go do it themselves because they so fervently believe their own bullshit.
Fox,
we are fine with that.
If I have my greatest regret, Fox, is that I but have one life to give for MSNBC.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because, if you give it for MSNBC, CNN's just left holding the bag.
Exactly. What about CNN Plus? How are they going to pay for it?
Exactly.
But if they're the ones saying that, it's refreshing, honestly, that they have been saying that we should go to war, we should sacrifice American lives, and then one of them is crazy enough to go over there and actually pretend.
Especially a war analyst, right? Because those are the kind of guys that, those are kind of the journalists that are being cited by other journalists as why we need to go to war. That's all of the opinion pieces talking about why we need to go to war. They're citing people like Nance, saying, well, he's an analyst, so he would know best. You're
touching on something important here. See, instead of being, really caring about Ukraine and wanting to defend that country, there's a maybe different motive for why he's there. And you might notice that he's not showing you the realities of what it's like to be fighting in a real war on the front line alongside Ukrainian special ops troops and going and taking it to the enemy. He's not fighting. In fact, he's wearing a bright colored vest, not military fatigues. He's in the green zone, and he's not going there to fight. He's going there to take video to highlight himself as a war correspondent, not to actually go defend Ukraine. So is he really taking action to support his words, or is he trying to bolster his career?
Yeah, it's interesting. He quote-unquote quit his job at MSNBC to go fight in the war, yet he's still giving interviews to MSNBC about his war analysis.
Could this possibly have been a strategy by MSNBC and him to bolster his career and to get them some coverage?
Yeah, it is interesting that he does find himself in relatively safe areas. You can tell that the area is safe, and you can tell that nobody else is concerned
because
about
no
this
one's
air
running
raid.
for cover.
Yeah, you can see in the background here. You can see people just walking around, going about their day. Nobody's running or ducking for cover. Again, Dyer, if you are in an air raid and you have to ask, are you really in an air raid?
No.
Exactly. And again, as you guys can see here, I'm playing it without the sound right now, but there's no, you can't see anything on the camera. Now, it's entirely possible that there is stuff up there. I'm not saying that MSNBC fully faked this footage, but, I wouldn't put it past them. You don't see anything in the sky, and that could have everything to do with the fact that the gain on the camera and the settings were designed for a close-up shot, not for something miles away in the sky with all that bright contrast on it. So it's possible the camera just couldn't pick it up. But it's also possible that they just filmed a blank sky and a bunch of pigeons and then added a jet sound effect over top of it. They talk about hearing air raid sirens. Well, it sounds like the post-production guys forgot to add that sound effect in, because you don't hear air raid sirens during this clip, even though they talk about hearing it. You don't see people running around screaming. Smoke, I don't know if that's smoke so much as just like a rain cloud. It's hard to say. So I'm not saying MSNBC faked this clip, but they might have.
Yeah.
They might have. So here is a picture of Mr. Nance, from his position on MSNBC before he quit to go join the war. And this is a picture that he posted on the left here, that he posted himself on his own Twitter profile, of him dressed up in, I don't know, what would you call those, Dyer? A uniform?
Fatigues.
Military
Yeah,
fatigues.
Yeah.
Yeah, he certainly looks fatigued. That chin strap is, it's that thing's not coming off.
It's glued on.
That's glued on there. So just looking through this uniform here, it's kind of interesting. I've got a question about one of the patches here, and I think that this video here that we're about to play really sums it up nicely. Let me see here. Yeah, so I just had one question about the way he's got his uniform set up there.
Coming at you peacefully, right? Yeah. But why the hell do you have an American flag right on the center of your freaking chest, man?
I do it differently. Our unit does. With the flag being on the side, the enemy can't tell it's America when we're coming at them. So we put it on the front of us to let them know that America's on their way.
That's the biggest crock of... What? What is this?
So, again, Malcolm Nance is supposedly a real veteran. He really did serve in any capacity, which, if true, very honorable. We thank him for his service. But this... it was just funny to me that the uniform he chose to put on, and then he put his American flag patch in the center of his chest, and it immediately reminded me of this classic viral instance of a stolen valor. That video is from a much longer video of a homeless person who somehow came into possession of military fatigues and then wore them around, claiming to have been in the military looking for donations, and somebody who really was in the military called him out on wearing his American flag patch in the center of his chest and asked him why. And so when I saw Malcolm Nance wearing his American flag patch in the center of his chest, the only thing I could think of is that is the biggest crock of bull.
I loved how the guy who was confronting the guy, he was probably ready for a lot of excuses for why they're doing stolen valor, but he was not ready for that story explaining why the flag was on his chest.
Yeah,
he was baffled.
Yeah, so if you were wondering why Malcolm Nance has the flag in the center of his chest, it's because he doesn't want the enemy to know that it's America coming to get them, but also he wants them to be able to see that it's America coming to get them.
Exactly.
Yep.
It only makes sense.
Alrighty. So, what else do we got here, Dyer? We also had a little something else about Ukraine come up this week. As you guys may have heard, 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden signed a like ridiculous, it was like $12 or $13 billion aid package to Ukraine. And we're finding out a little bit about where some of that money is going. Most of the money, actually, we are just immediately losing track of it as soon as it enters the country.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars have so far been lost, and that's just in like the last couple of weeks. But we have found out where some of the money is going. Where's it going, Dyer?
Yeah. So on Thursday, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, which is not one of her favorite people right now, announced the United States will be providing Ukraine with a new $500 million infusion of aid to help the government of Kiev continue paying salaries of Ukrainian government employees. Yes, U.S. taxpayers are now paying the salaries of government officials in another country that we, of course, did not vote for. I think this is patently absurd that first off, that they need salaries right now. Their own people in their country during this time of war are not like charging each other rent. There aren't businesses still operating like normal. No one needs the economy is collapsed entirely there. So the government officials aren't reliant on salaries to survive. So why are we having to pay them salaries unless that this is like a golden parachute style thing where they expect the country to fall and they want to have money to fall back on when they move to the rest of Europe.
Yeah, the Democrat Party has essentially been paying bonuses to most of the Ukrainian government over the last 2 decades anyways, through like laundering taxpayer aid and all of these weird projects with Hunter Biden and all that stuff. But now they're just like skipping the corruption step and just going straight to the treasury and just dumping it in their pockets. How about this deal? If you're a government official and you want your paycheck next week, how about you don't let your country fall to a foreign entity? If the Ukrainian government officials were so worried about getting their next paycheck, maybe they shouldn't have allowed Joe Biden and the Democrat Party to do the sorts of corrupt things that they were doing in Ukraine for the last 10 years, to the point where Putin decided, hey, you know what? I've had enough of this. I can't have this rogue entity of the West on my borders with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden doing God knows what medical experiments at this Metabiota lab, all of which may or may not be true, but it gave Putin the excuse. And the only reason Putin had the excuse to do it is because the Ukrainian officials allowed people like the Biden family to just use their country to launder taxpayer dollars into their own pockets. If Ukraine hadn't done that, if Ukraine had stood up for itself and said, no, we're independent, we're not going to be a vassal state of Russia, and we're not going to be a vassal state of the Democrat Party in America, they could have done that. They had that opportunity, but all they saw were those dollar signs. And after a decade of pulling in those taxpayer dollars laundered by the Democrat Party into Ukraine, all of a sudden, those chickens come home to roost and they don't have a paycheck anymore. And it really begs the question, what do they need a paycheck for anyways? They've got a country to go fight for. And as Dyer said, the economy essentially has collapsed. There's really not money being transferred anyways. It's just, people moving rations around and fighting block by block. And I wonder too, what currency do we think that those salaries are being paid out in? Is it the whatever Ukraine uses as money, or is it maybe US dollars? And I bet you you're going to start seeing some of those Ukrainian government officials collecting their salaries from safer countries in Europe, that they will abandon the country, that the Biden administration will give these officials the money to escape their circumstances, continue collecting money from the U.S. taxpayer, and then moving to Europe to continue screwing over the Ukrainian people.
Yep, I have a counteroffer, actually. If we're going to be forced to use our tax dollars to pay the government officials of other countries, how about we also transfer the right to vote for those officials?
I agree.
Yeah, we're already controlling the government anyways, but right now the only people who have an influence in what's happening with our the control over Ukraine is apparently the Biden family. So if you're going to force us to pay their salaries, then we get to pick who we're paying.
Yeah, Nance is Malcolm Nance is an idiot, but clearly a brave one, but he's an idiot.
Yes.
But I think that we need to take a note from his book here, and all of the Ukrainian government officials, it's time to stop talking. It's time to stop asking for handouts. We'll give them one more gun. We'll give how about this? The U.S. taxpayer is willing to pay every Ukrainian official. We'll give them a rifle, and we'll send them into battle. If they want their next paycheck, then they can go fight for it.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, I hope that this trend of news anchors, skipping the step of asking Dyer to go die for them and them just go doing it themselves.
Please.
I hope that continues. One media agency that has found a much more efficient way to destroy themselves. I was going to say the term where you like set yourself on fire. Was it
emulate?
Yeah,
self-emulate.
Yeah, no, it's not emulate. It's gosh. You guys are seeing in real time how
gosh darn it,
bright and smart we are. Emulate. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, not emulate.
What did I say?
Emulate. Yeah.
Emulate. Sorry.
Yeah. So self-emulation. Emulation. Dyer's inability to speak has infected me. All right. So CNN, they have found the best way to set yourself on fire. So as you guys may remember, when we talked to you 2 weeks ago, we announced the startup of CNN Plus, and this week we are announcing the ending of CNN Plus.
That was very quick.
That was very quick. So the article from the Daily Wire here says, so Warner Brothers Discovery is shutting down CNN Plus after the new streaming service struggled to attract viewers, report says. Warner Brothers Discovery is reportedly, no, they not reportedly, they did, they just shut it down, is shutting down CNN's new subscription streaming service, CNN Plus, after the service experienced a significant struggle in attracting an audience. Chris Licht, the incoming CEO of CNN, sent a memo. What happened to the previous CEO of CNN? Sent a memo to staffers on Thursday morning about, quote, an important meeting that will be held at noon. This is at that time expected to inform staffers about the decision, Variety reported. Licht has already told Andrew Morse, the CNN executive vice president who oversees the newly launched streaming video outlet, of the decision. CNBC reported last week that fewer than 10,000 people were using CNN Plus on a daily basis. Now, to give some scale to that number, not that we have 10,000 people watching us in a day, but Dyer, you do have, and you got this before I came on, you do have over 10,000 subs on YouTube. Like, it's a number. We'll just put some context there. It's a number that's not difficult to achieve. Not that Dyer didn't put in that much effort, but CNN
just accept that I am not that great.
CNN put in $300 million to attract 10,000 people.
Very little comparison.
Yeah, Dyer did not spend $300 million to do what he does. So just to give some contect for that,
I know it'll surprise you, but I haven't even spent $1 million.
That's crazy. It's pretty wild. So yeah, $300 million to get 10,000 people a day. Wow.
That's not good.
Yeah. So the service had roughly 150,000 total subscribers, which was well short of the 2 million subscribers. Yeah, that's pretty short.
Wow,
that is pretty short.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, that would be 7.5% of their target.
I know I'm not the first person pointing out, but I'm going to point it out anyways that it's hilarious that they thought, oh, our viewership is tanking. People are leaving us. We're not making money. You know what we can do to get people to start watching us again? Let's charge them for it.
That is a really high cost per viewer, even subscriber. I mean, $300 million to buy 200 million subscribers, or for 2 million subscribers. That's like $200. That's like $150 a subscriber.
Their best case scenario still sounds like a loss.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of experience with YouTube, and so does certain people that you know. I mean, $150 per subscriber, not even a viewer, just per subscriber. You can just buy subscribers from sites that provide sock puppet accounts. You can buy 2 million subscribers for $1,000.
So some of you guys may know that my wife is vastly more skilled and successful than I am, and
better looking,
a better singer. Also way better. Never mind. So she. I do know that by the amount of millions of views she gets, what it kind of monetizes to. And I would say that even with that amount of subscribers actively viewing everything they watch, they still would be operating a loss with that level of funding.
Yeah, I mean, I bet your wife's numbers of daily interactions is probably over 10,000 or close to it. I bet you didn't
easily.
I bet you guys didn't spend $300 million to get. I didn't think about this beforehand, but we should have done a quick interview with her to like ask her just like how crazy of a monetization scheme that is. Just absolutely, like, I mean, we're talking about factors of like thousands of percent. I mean, the what's the CPM on YouTube, which is cost per 1,000 views.
Yes, right.
Is like what, like $3 or $4?
So it depends where the viewers are coming from. It could be as much as $1.50.
Yeah, and CNN's paying like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah,
like, well, and then just for views, I mean, you got 150,000 subscribers. They haven't necessarily all viewed the content. They were around for okay. So CNN Plus was around for 22 days, and they had fewer than 10,000 people per day watching it. That's 22,000 people.
So 2 million subscribers.
Your wife could post a picture of her dog, and in 12 hours, she would have 22,000 people comment on it. 2 million
subscribers does not translate to 2 million views. And my wife gets way more than 2 million views in a month.
Yeah. So the things that are, so CNN Plus cost approximately 3 Joe Rogans, because Joe Rogan cost $100 million, and they spent 3 times that. Imagine you've got the opportunity to invest in Joe Rogan, or you can spend 3 times as much to invest in Brian Stelter.
Not a good trade.
Trade offer. I get $300 million. You get Brian Stelter. Do you take that offer?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh my God, that's insane.
I'd pay you to keep him.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so they had 150,000 subscribers after 22 days, which was well short of the 2 million subscribers the network had hoped to hit within the first few years. Within the first few years, I mean, if you want to be a channel that size, I mean, oh my God, that's crazy. All right, so quote, this decision is in line with Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Directors to Consumer Strategy. That was a mouthful. Licht said in a statement, in a complex streaming market, consumers want simplicity and an all-in-one service, which provides a better experience and more value than standalone offerings. CNN providing value.
CNN provides lies. That's all they do. Yeah. Not value.
The move comes after CNN's parent company, AT&T Warner Media, was purchased by Discovery earlier this month. Blame bad timing, limited communications, and misaligned incentives for how CNN and Discovery got strategically misaligned on such a massive product rollout. Yeah, see, the strategy for CNN was just to dump money as quickly as possible, and Discovery's strategy was to not do that. CNN was like, we would like to light all of this money on fire like the Joker, and Discovery says, actually, can we not do that? That was the strategic misalignment. Dyer, like if somebody, for instance, wanted to I don't know, abandon $90 billion worth of military equipment to a enemy, and somebody else didn't want to do that, would you call that a strategic misalignment?
No, I would say one person is criminally insane, but I wouldn't say it's a misalignment. Like, you're on different planets strategically. You're not like having
maybe they're on Bayron.
Maybe they're in Bayron. The planet, right?
Yes. Bayron may so Joe Biden's given us lots of new words like true Nana Shabbat pressure and Badakath care. I was not anticipating Kamala Harris giving me a new word, but I will use Bayron.
Yeah, generally she uses like grade school, like 5-year-old language.
Well, and you can see what happens when she doesn't do that, when she tries to expand her boundaries.
Exactly. Now we know why she speaks like she's in kindergarten, because if she tries using any more advanced language, she says things just as nonsensical as Biden does.
What if she's a Bayronian and they couldn't say that she was the first Bayronian vice president, and that's why they had to make up like all of these like really hyper-specific things that she was?
I thought she was already a lizard person with a person suit on.
Well, maybe Bayronians are lizard people, Dyer.
That's where they come from.
I know. Alrighty. So, let's see here. So, ex-Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, who left the company last week, published the launch of CNN Plus before CNN merged with Discovery. It's ahead of my expectations in terms of where we are, where the subscribers are, the engagement, the receptiveness that we're getting in terms of response. This is like a lot of just mangled quotes. Alrighty. Basically, CNN, they launched CNN Plus last week or 2 weeks ago. It collapsed almost immediately. I mean, again, Dyer and I, we skipped 1 week of show. The last show, we brought you the start of CNN Plus. This week, we are bringing you the end of CNN Plus. To give you some context on how quickly CNN Plus evaporated, CNN Plus lasted less than 2 Scaramucci's, which, if you'll remember, Scaramucci was Donald Trump's press secretary for 11 days.
I remember.
And the Scaramucci became a unit of time by which 11 days is known as. So CNN did not last 2 Scaramucci's. It was also pointed out on Twitter that the average housefly lives for 24 days, and CNN Plus lasted for 22. So the average housefly that was born at the beginning of CNN Plus is still flying around your house. And as I pointed out earlier, it also cost them 3 Joe Rogans to accomplish this historic defeat. And that money, too, that wasn't like we're pledging. That wasn't like CNN's pledging $300 billion to CNN Plus. No, they had already sunk the money. It's already gone.
It's not coming back.
Yeah. So
people are getting fired over this.
Yeah. So a lot of people have already been fired on this. And so there was some rumors early on that CNN Plus would get rolled into Discovery Plus. No. It's just gone. It's not getting rolled anywhere. It is just gone. See, Discovery Plus already exists. And Discovery looked at this and said, actually adding more content to our platform would hurt the platform.
No, there's actually what they actually said in quotes was, "You want us to add a dumpster fire to our functioning system? No, thank you."
Perhaps one of the my favorite fallouts from this was Chris Wallace, who quit Fox News after he lied during the moderation of the presidential debates and tried to hurt Trump on something that never happened, and lied during the debate as a moderator. He quit Fox News to join CNN with the promise of a CNN Plus show. And, well, Chris Wallace has now quit CNN because obviously his CNN Plus show did not materialize.
It's not gonna happen. That is hilarious.
Oh my god. Alrighty. Well, that was much fun. CNN, rest in piss. Let's see. Yeah. So what was funny about this was, and we try very hard, and I think we do a very good job of never mentioning his name on the show because he's just not relevant. But I will make an exception just this once for comedic value. I found it hilarious that Tim Pool was commenting and celebrating the fall and collapse of CNN Plus, as the rest of us were, because CNN is a garbage fire news outlet that deserves to fail. And Tim Pool was celebrating this along with the rest of us, saying that it was funny and obvious that CNN Plus would crash and burn in this way. And the reason why it's funny to me is because Tim Pool is on his 3rd news outlet where he has received investor money and then run them into the ground, collapsing them. And he's now on his 3rd iteration of that. A story from a few years ago is that Tim Pool's previous news outlet, Subverse, which was then Scanner, collapsed not due to a lack of interest. There was a lot of interest. So CNN Plus collapsed because the general population of the world had no interest in purchasing the product that CNN was providing. Tim Pool, on the other hand, very interestingly, there was very, very high demand for what he was going to provide with Scanner, what he was claiming to provide with Scanner. The reason why it failed is purely through Tim Pool's mismanagement. So I find it funny that he's commenting on a media organization collapsing into dust before it even got off the ground, because Tim Pool's done that twice.
He has no room to talk about
He's done that twice. So I found that hilarious, and that'll probably be the last time for a year and a half. I'm going to put $1 in the Tim Pool jar. But that'll be the last time we mention him for a long time.
Yeah. I love this tweet from one of the CNN journalists who's saying, for everyone who's dunking on CNN for CNN Plus failing, you guys you got to be nicer because people lost their jobs. People have been working on this project for a long time, and then now suddenly their jobs are gone. Like, no. People didn't lose their jobs. People at CNN, a company that has actively been trying to destroy our country, destroy our culture, has actively gone out and tried to destroy the lives of individual people because they have different opinions. No. When a tyrant dies, no one cries.
Well, there's going to be this weird wave of jobless pedophiles. The pedophile employment rate's about to just drop through the floor, or the unemployment rate's going to go through the roof here, because now that you got Florida going after Disney and getting all of their pedophiles. Now you've got CNN, who we've covered multiple times this year already, where it turned out that many of their senior producers were raping children in their pastimes. So the shutdown of CNN Plus, the Florida targeting Disney, there is going to be a wave of unemployed pedophiles.
Oh gosh, how will the pedophiles survive?
Well, they might have to, I don't know, stop raping kids and get a real job. And to the point of real jobs versus, working for the media. Again, Dyer and I have pointed this out multiple times. We both have other jobs. This is a pastime that we don't do full time. We have real other jobs, and we live in the real middle class, which is a unique take that a lot of even your conservative commentators don't have. A lot of them did come up through the ranks of income, but Dyer and I still live in the middle class. We still live by the policies that we're advocating for. We would still be affected by them. We can't go buy 1,000-acre property in Montana and build a bunker like most of the other commentators can. When we're advocating for something, Dyer especially, he might have to go to war for some of the things that we're advocating for. And so again, to your point that people losing their job. No, you're talking about media personalities losing their job. There's a bit of a difference.
Go learn to code. How about that?
Yeah, go learn to code like I do. So that just to reiterate,
I don't think they can learn to code like you do. They're not smart enough.
Yeah, no one can code like me.
No, just they can't.
No one can. No one can, Dyer. Yeah, I was personally offended during the whole learn to code thing. I was like, I do not want my industry flooded with media personalities.
Well, the funny thing is they can't actually. They're not dedicated enough or smart enough to actually do it. So telling them to go do something practical and reasonable that we know they can't do was another layer of funny.
Yeah.
Especially because they had just finished telling us, people who were being, not me, but other people who are losing their jobs because of government policies, they were telling them to go to code. People who are coal miners and stuff like that, they're telling them, oh, it's all right if you lose your job because government mandated your job now be too expensive to maintain. You just go learn to code.
With Elon buying out Twitter and CNN collapsing to dust, it's more and more likely that we're going to see the red wave in the midterms and then for the presidential election. So a lot of these unemployed pedophiles / journalists, they will be able, they won't necessarily have to mine coal, but they can probably go learn to be an oil driller. That would be fun. There'll be plenty of opportunities for that once we have the red wave. So
yeah.
Do you think that maybe the red wave was just talking about CNN's balance sheets? Well, and so what is also funny about this is this might be devastating enough that it might shake apart other parts of CNN. Like oh, I don't know, Brian Stelter and Don Lemon, who have no ratings to speak of whatsoever. Discovery may well just decide, we got to cannibalize this whole thing into something new. It might still say CNN on the front of it, but the insides will be totally gutted. You might see, under the new leadership of Discovery, you might see a total washout of CNN in the next couple of years.
Zucker was the previous CEO, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So Zucker liked Stelter. Zucker's gone. They were already concerned selling. Wow. What's his name?
Stelter.
Stelter. He was already concerned that he might lose his job because no one likes him at CNN.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Stelter this week was trying to explain away the collapse of CNN Plus by saying, well, it was Discovery bought us and we just had these different ideas and it was just really difficult to kind of, get that going. And, maybe just the world isn't ready for a news streaming service, which was really funny because Fox News has been around, like the Fox Nation app has been around for 5 or 6 years, and then Fox News streaming their actual programming on that and adding additional content to that as a on-demand service has been around for about 2 years. So there's certainly demand for that. It's certainly capable of running, and CNN Plus was in direct response to Fox News having Fox Nation. So this idea that the world isn't ready for a new streaming service is, well, it just doesn't hold water.
They're just not a streaming service from you is the problem.
You see, the problem was CNN thought that it was an apple, Discovery thought that it was a banana, and at the end of the day, it turned out to be a banana.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
I do. How could I forget that?
How could you forget the CNN, this is an Apple commercial? Should I find that real quick?
No, I think everyone remembers.
I want to find it because I think it's funny, and it's 30 seconds here.
Okay. It should be too hard to find.
This is an apple. Some people might try to tell you that it's a banana. They might scream banana, banana, banana over and over and over again. They might put banana in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a banana. But it's not. This is an apple.
So they're
this
facts first.
Is CNN.
And that's why they got to cover up the facts, right?
Yeah.
It's so ironic coming from them.
Well, I mean, you can call it an apple all you want, CNN, but if Discovery, who owns you, thinks it's a banana.
It's a banana.
or more like a lemon. How about that one? All right.
Yeah, that's apt.
Okay, so it wasn't just CNN and the mainstream media that were having busy weeks while Diary and I were off. Joe Biden had one hell of a busy week. So for someone that Trump called Sleepy Joe, the guy sure does get around a lot. This week, Joe Biden was photographed shaking hands with Gage Grosswicks, better known to viewers of this show as Bicep Guy. As you may remember, Gage lost his bicep attempting to murder Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle, who did not want to be murdered that day, used an AR-style defense rifle to disarm, literally, Gage, as Gage pointed a 9mm Glock pistol at Kyle's head. Here is the picture of Joe Biden shaking hands with Gage Grosswicks. Now, this story, I was hoping, after I saw this photo here, I was hoping that anybody would cover it so I could have a source to reference and maybe read a little bit about the context about it. But as it remains, this is a nearly unreported story. The photos here, I do recognize that as Gage. I watched, how many hours of that trial do you think I watched? Probably 80 hours of that trial. And I covered it on here for probably another 40 hours over the course of those 2.5 weeks. So that's definitely Gage. This is definitely Joe Biden in the left kind of middle area there. You can see his gray hair. And that's Gage Grosswicks, who, among other crimes, was illegally in possession of a pistol and tried to murder a child. Now, we don't have to do a lot of guessing. Well, actually, that's Dyer's part, so I'll let him say that. But that's definitely Gage. That's definitely Joe Biden. I wish I had some more. I don't know. I guess I don't really need more sourcing because we just have the picture here. But I'm just I'm just hesitant to always bring you guys stuff that doesn't have a story behind it, but we're bringing you the story. This is kind of like an original report based off of an image that was taken.
So the Kyle Rittenhouse trial proved conclusively that Kyle acted in self-defense. That is to say, Kyle defended himself from Gage attempting to murder him. No one asked Joe why he was shaking hands with someone who had attempted to murder a child. I think implicitly, though, that they have already made it clear that they felt he was a hero and that Kyle Rittenhouse was a villain for daring to defend his life against wife beaters and pedophiles.
I'm surprised that Joe Biden was in support of Gage murdering a child when, a murdered child is much harder to sniff.
But not impossible, apparently.
Not impossible. Alrighty. So, in addition to that, there's been a lot of speculation and conspiracy theorizing about just who controls Joe Biden. There's a lot of options. Well, the easy and initial answer is that it's the Chinese. The Chinese control Joe Biden. Here is Joe. Once again, this is from a clip from this week. Joe recounting his travels with Communist Party Chairman Xi Jinping, also Winnie the Pooh lookalike. This time, Joe recounts the time that they invaded Tibet together.
I was with Xi Jinping. I've traveled with 17,000 miles with him and spent more time with any other world leader over a total of, I think, and we're up to 90-some hours of talking or meeting together over the last 6-7 years. And we were in the foothills of the Tibet.
Tibet.
Yeah, so for some context on Tibet and China, China thinks that they own Tibet in the same way that they think that they own Taiwan and Hong Kong. Tibet begs to differ. So if Xi Jinping and Joe Biden were taking a hike in Tibet, I don't know about that.
So while China is the obvious answer, there are other candidates too, like possibly his wife, Jill Biden. There are a lot of video evidence to back up this theory, like this one here where Jill tells Joe to sit and stay.
Yeah, so maybe it's China that controls Joe Biden. Maybe it's his wife, Jill Biden.
Okay, just stay.
Sir Sylvie, just sit. Don't move.
She's a teacher. I'm the teacher. A little bit louder. It's quiet.
Okay, just stay.
Sir Sylvie, just sit. Don't move. She's a teacher.
I'm the teacher, you know.
She's a teacher.
All right,
and you have the competence of a child.
Yeah, sit, stay. I mean, does that speak to you, Dyer? Sit and stay. Did you know those commands? Do you ever use those commands on anybody?
On my dogs.
Oh, that's weird. Here's another one where we'll just let you watch it here.
Welcome to the South Lawn. Thank you and happy Easter. All right.
Wait.
All right, so if you could hear it there, Jill Biden prompting Joe Biden to wave, just as she prompted him to sit and stay. Now wave, which is similar enough to the command of shake.
He's as well trained as my dog.
Which one?
Ronan. So now, if she starts telling him to roll over, the Jill Biden theory will be proven. But it's possible that this is all a misdirection, right? Is it possible that Jill is just a distraction from Joe's real master? This week, we got a possible glimpse at just who the real masters are. Watch here as Joe is seen shaking the hand of what appears to be no one.
Spooky.
So there's spirits or ghosts controlling him. That answers it, right?
Yes. So some people have speculated that it's possible that the entity Joe Biden was attempting to shake hands with was the Hat Man, the elusive shadow person that can reportedly only be seen after taking copious amounts of Benadryl, which would definitely explain Joe's general demeanor. But possibly the real truth. So we went through China, we went through Jill Biden, we went through the Hat Man. The real truth of who controls Joe Biden may be even stranger.
Okay. Seen here at the White House Easter egg hunt, Joe was being asked some questions about his failures in Afghanistan, and of course he can't answer those. So it's hard to say how he would answer those, however, because this is what happened.
Oh my God. So, is it possible that in fact the Easter Bunny or bunnies are the ones who pull Joe Biden's strings? This video from a second angle may give us the answer. Let's watch. I'm gonna find the right spot here. Alrighty, we're going to slow this video down here so we can really see what's going on. So this is the same incident from a different angle. Just a second here. Playing this without audio. There we go. So here's Joe Biden. There's the Easter Bunny sneaking up. Look at his face.
It's a look of terror.
Oh my God. Oh my
terror. God. Not only does the Easter Bunny rule him, it rules with fear.
Oh my God, that is terrifying. Look at that look of shock and horror on his face. I mean, one moment you're just in a dementia haze, and the next moment the Easter Bunny is there at your side. Well, let's just take a look. Let's watch Joe Biden realize that the angel of death is upon him. That look, the initial realization of, oh my God, it's happening. I thought I had more time.
So both Trump and Biden had teams of advisors who would, help him, would help each other. Would help either of them know what their schedule is and what they need to do. However, there's a stark difference between Trump and Biden. Where Trump goes, he was clearly in charge of his team. They weren't. It was, but with Biden, you have a slew of people who are telling him what to do, giving him simple instructions, and he clearly is not in charge of his own life.
Well, and those people apparently are the Easter Bunny.
Or a cabal between Jill, the Easter Bunny, and the other group you were talking about.
The Hat Man?
The Hat Man. and what was the
Chinese.
Byron.
Yeah, but Bayron. Yeah, the Bayronians. We didn't include the Bayronians here because they already have Kamala Harris, apparently.
So we got China, the Byronians, the Easter Bunny, and Jill. They're all a cabal leading his life for him.
Yeah, so which one, though? Which one do we think is the most plausible commander-in-chief of Joe Biden?
Obama.
Read your lines. God damn it.
Okay, so it's clear from the back and to the left motion of his head that Joe was frightened by the sudden appearance of the Easter Bunny. The only question that remains is, what does Joe have to be scared of? The answer can only be fear itself.
Yes. It is, in fact, the Easter Bunny who runs the country.
I knew it. That explains all the laws regarding, eggs.
Do bunnies lay eggs?
No. But that's the thing about Easter, right?
Yes. Alrighty. Well, that was a fun segment of how do I get as many Joe Biden being himself into one segment and string it all together with a narrative. I hope you enjoyed it.
You did a good job of making that nonsensical story a story.
Look at that look of terror on his face.
That's the real thing right there. Like, he clearly shed himself just then.
And it's not like it just came out like, at the Vatican or whatever. It was like a fully justifiable, I was scared to death. No one would blame him.
I shit myself in a self-defense. Hopefully they would leave me because I was so pitiful.
Yeah, they teach you that in basic.
No.
Alrighty. Well, our last What's that?
That's for the advanced course.
Yeah, there you go. So our last segment for the evening is the Masks Are Over party.
Woo!
Yay! Celebrate. Or if, you're not a chode like, everybody in New York, the Mask is Over party was like a year and a half ago. I don't Dyer, when's the last time you chose to wear a mask somewhere?
Well, I was always forced to, except for back in the States, but that would have been at least a year ago.
At least a year ago. Yeah. I think the last time I chose to wear a mask would have been, I think it was more than a year ago. It probably would have been like January of 2020 would have been when I kind of got over it.
I just realized what a month it is.
Yeah, I mean we're
over a year and a half.
Yeah, we're on like two years and like a month of 2 weeks to slow the spread. Yeah, yeah.
Jeez,
I mean we're at like over 100 Scaramucci's of slow the spread. I think the CNN will be the newest. That'll be the new time span here. Let me see. I want to do a calculator here. I want to see how many CNN pluses has 15 days of slow spread been. So let's say it was 2 times 365 plus another month. So it's been about 760 days. So it's been 34.5 CNN pluses to slow the spread.
Wow.
That's funny.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So it's been the Masks is Over party has been a much long time ago for most of us. In fact, my company, our headquarters is in Chicago, and my local branch, we've been back at work for, probably over 18 months. And the headquarters in Chicago, they just went back to the office this month. Just this month, and they were so panicked to the point where we almost had to alter corporate policy. We're an international company, and because 500 dorks in Chicago were scared to go back to work, we almost altered our corporate policy for 50,000 employees across the world. Wow. So if you were living in one of these hellholes, or you had to fly on a regular basis, Masks is Over party is a new thing for you. So on Monday, a decision made by U.S. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell, that's a long name. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell, she a sorceress supreme, yes. In Tampa, says that the federal mask mandate exceeded the authority of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which failed to justify the order and did not follow proper rulemaking procedures. Delta Airlines responded by telling passengers that they now had the choice whether or not to wear masks or to wear the face diapers, as some people call them. It's funny because don't you have a thing in the military, Dyer, where like all government agencies do, where if you don't, I know it's called something, but if you don't use your budget one year, your budget the next year is reduced. What's that called?
I don't know what the term is. That's a real thing. I don't think there's a word for it, but we actually just went through this budget cycle, so we have all this money left, and we have to spend it. So now we're going through that process.
Yeah. So and the reason why you have to spend it this cycle is because if you don't, your next cycle budget they'll reduce your budget. So it's funny because a similar thing seems to have happened with the CDC powers. So the CDC issued powers that they have the power. They just asserted that we have the ability to issue a mask mandate. And the judge said, actually, no, you don't. You've exceeded your authority. And the response from the CDC and the White House was, well, you have to allow them to exercise that authority, because if you don't, then they won't have the authority in the future to exercise that authority. They have base zero budgeting for their power. If they don't use it, they lose it, which I seem to think that's not I don't know if that's a constitutional way of doing things, but I definitely like the idea that they've now lost that power forever and that there's now precedent that they don't have it.
No, the problem is that from the perspective that they're operating from is we need to having masks is not about whether or not masks are necessary or whether the use of them is scientifically necessary or advisable. The sole reason now to make you wear a mask and why they're fighting in court is so that they have the power to make you wear a mask, not because it's necessary or good for you. So that's why they're fighting to maintain the mandate. Now, the masks were never working. There never was science that meant that said they were effective. So from the very beginning, the government decided to pass a regulation that was not in your greater for your good, was not reasonable, and also that they didn't have the right to do. And they did it because they know that the process is they can pass any law, but then it has to be challenged in court to find out whether it was constitutional or not. Now, that cynical view of passing laws is ridiculous because they are knowingly violating your rights because they know they can do it for a time until they're challenged in court.
Yeah, which is a massive, massive oversight by the founding fathers, who I'm becoming less and less enamored by as we continue to test the boundaries of the Constitution and find it lacking, or at least the design of the government and find it lacking.
The one thing that allows this is there has to be a victim. So a court can do an injunction when there is a known victim of a law and can stop the application of that law. However, when there was no clear victim of a lot of these policies of like what damages were done, and I think we need to clarify what makes a victim by government policy and how much
it does
damage
no
is necessary.
harm. Yeah, the it does no harm argument is not enough. It's got to do a noted and specific good that was authorized by the people. Otherwise, you don't just get to do stuff willy-nilly. Like a congressman taking insider trading bets and making hundreds of millions of dollars over 10 years, that does no harm to anybody in particular. It's a generally a victimless crime. That doesn't mean that they can just do it. It's got to be something that's otherwise. If it's not something that's specific, noted good that was authorized by the people, then you get stuff like that where you just have all of this gray area where the agencies and the government can just do whatever the hell it wants for whatever reason it wants, and then we all have to suffer under the regime. But if you don't suffer enough, then, well, it doesn't really count.
Yeah, and not surprising, 200 years ago, they could not have predicted exactly this application of the law.
See, I reject that because they had a king.
Okay, yeah, but the system of government we have now didn't even exist 200 years ago. They've been developing and adding to it since then, right? So
Yes.
a lot of the things that exist now didn't exist then. They couldn't have known all the compounding effects. Trust me on this. They couldn't have possibly have known that this kind of application of the idea that you can
they
only
knew a little bit. They had generalities of it because I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who said that this Constitution thing, it only works if it's governing a moral people.
Okay,
which
yes,
is
true.
a pretty stupid handicap to give a government document.
Fair enough.
What planet was he living on where the government of any country was formed by moral people? Maybe Bahrain. Maybe Bahrain has countries. Maybe the planet of Bahrain has countries which are formed by only moral governors. But like,
You're right.
Yeah.
They couldn't have seen this particular application, right? So there needs to be a redefinition of when can the Supreme Court or any federal court file an injunction to stop the application of a law, because right now requiring the standard of a clear victim with damages is too hard a standard.
The first step on that would be, and a triumvirate, if you're listening, here's my idea for the Constitutional Convention there, is that we need to flip the direction of the judicial branch. It shouldn't be that we go to the legislative just does whatever it wants, and then after somebody's injured, we go to the Supreme Court, we go to the judiciary and say, hey, I was injured, possibly irreparably, can you help me out and do something about this law so that it stops injuring other people? I think we got to flip the order of that. I think if Congress wants to pass something, I think the judiciary has to be the third sign off on it. It's got to go through both chambers, the executive, and then to the judiciary.
That would solve that problem.
Yeah, all the other laws, you've got to go through the legislative and the executive. The executive signs off on it, but I think the judiciary needs to sign off on it too, as this has been predetermined to be constitutional? And if it's not, why don't we stop injuring people and then doing something about it? Why don't we have the group that's supposed to be overviewing constitutionality, why don't we have them take a first look at it, a first crack at it right off the bat? So that's my idea triumvirate. And my other idea that's I think probably not going to be as well accepted, but it's still my primary idea, is that the Constitutional Convention should add an amendment that strikes the language in Article 1, strikes the language in Article 2, and strikes the language in Article 3, which, for those of you who aren't constitutional scholars, that would dissolve all three branches of the federal government.
But leave the rest of the text, which is really funny in context.
Well, no, because all of the agencies are executive branch.
I know.
So that is my suggestion for an amendment, and it doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be 3 sentences. The Amendment 87 is language in Article 1 is struck. Language in Article 2 is struck. Language in Article 3 is struck.
I think that even just having the Supreme Court having the option to do a judicial review on any law passed, whether or not a victim or a damages has been identified or any charges have been filed, just that they have the option to review and to file a ruling to stop it, that alone would allow any Supreme Court. They can skip over laws that are so small and so unnecessary they don't need to review them.
Well, so they could have the option of saying, we pass. We'll review it if it causes problems, but we're going to pass on this one. We won't make a decision one way or the other. But there's already precedent for this, because that's what they did with Obamacare. With Obamacare, they sent it to the judiciary just for funsies and let what's his name, one of the justices, mark it all up and decide, okay, I think that this would be a problem later, this wouldn't be a problem. So they've already got this sense that they might need to do that for some bills just to make sure that they're Supreme Court proof in the future. So they already had this idea that they might need to do that. I just say that we codify that and make it binding, that the Supreme Court doesn't get to rewrite stuff, but they can say yes, no, or pass, and we'll view it in the future. So I mean, that would be fine.
Easy fix.
They don't need to look at every single little bill, but they would at least have the option to. They would at least have the option to look at it. And then some bills, based off certain criteria, would force them to look at it. Though I don't mind the idea that we force them to look at every single bill and we just completely stall out Congress. If every single bill had to be read and marked up by the Supreme Court, that would just totally bring to a halt all legislation, which I'm fine with.
I'm not fine with that particular requirement.
But my third idea for an amendment is the government is shut down. And that's it.
Wow. You're a rascal. All right. So there was more to this story.
Is there? Oh, yeah, there's a video. You want me to play the video? Okay, yeah, so I think we were talking about masks. So, let's see. Okay, so there was, upon the announcement of the masks is over policy, the specific mask policy that was ended was the requirement for masks to be worn on airplanes. And so the announcement came, as you may be surprised to learn, there was airplanes in the sky when it happened. And here's some videos of what was happening on one of those planes when the announcement was made.
And I just checked with the company, and the company position is, the Delta position is, masks will be optional this evening for all crew and passengers as well. So it is cause to celebrate, but for those who want to wear masks, please feel free to, but it is optional, and that way we can alleviate any stress and discomfort. Thank you very much.
Yay.
Yay. So the Biden admin says in response to this that just one plane was happy about it. It's not a big deal. And that they plan to challenge the decision in court. Here's a video from...
No, this isn't going to be a video because this is USA Today, which my ad blocker refuses to show. Well,
okay,
it refuses to show because I've got an ad blocker, which I'm not going to go through the process of disabling.
Jen Psaki, I'll just reiterate, she said that you can find the video easily. She said that basically what we just told you. I wanted you guys to hear it from her, that The president has heard about one plane of people who were happy about it, but we're going to challenge it in court because it is important that we follow the science, and also it's important that the CDC this ruling being upheld because CDC should have the power to enforce this in the future. So that was them saying the real purpose wasn't science. It wasn't because of medical necessity, because obviously where masks have not been required, there haven't been more cases, there haven't been more deaths. So really, the only purpose they have for it is we want to maintain power of an unelected bureaucracy.
Let's see here. This might be the clip here. Let me see here.
We are entirely able to and legally able to be a part of the discussion, but right now we of course are deferring to the CDC on what they believe is needed at this moment. They obviously put in place this 2-week extension because they felt they needed that to take a look at the data, given that we've seen a rise in cases. So we certainly anticipate
just
to hear
2
more from
weeks,
them
guys,
soon on their ask for being able to have that time, which we think is entirely warranted. And the Department of Justice, as you noted, has indicated that they would appeal, not just because they think it's entirely reasonable, of course, to have this additional time to look at it, but because they think that for current and future public health crises, we want to preserve that authority for the CDC to have in the future.
Yeah, because if they don't use it, they'll lose it. Just like their budget.
They want to set a precedent that this type of mandate is not constitutional, because then they'll never be able to do it to us in the future. Oh no.
Oh, drats. Yeah, so that's great, which means that if and when, and well, currently, until reversed, this decision holds as precedent. And so until reversed specifically, this is the law of the land, or at least the precedent of the land, that the CDC does not have the authority to do this again, which is good, because I think everyone's expecting shenanigans going into the midterms. So let's try to get rid of as many government powers before then as possible.
And governments.
Yes. Like the first 3 articles.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I'm not actually in favor of demolishing the government like Fox is, but you are hilarious.
Yes, I'm an anarcho-necessitist. I've come up with that recently. It is not anarchy because I want to be an anarchist, because I am like viscerally opposed to most ANCAP ideas. However, it is just out of necessity that like we have to go back to base 0. There is no other option.
I think Fox's core principle is he just hates people.
Yes, I believe that this is a version of Black Pill that I have renamed, but yes, I'm an anarcho-necessitist now. Anarchy out of necessity, not because it's a good idea.
It's because it's the best bad idea we have.
Exactly.
You're such a defeatist, man.
No, I'm proposing a route forward. You're just pissed because you'll stop getting a paycheck.
Yes. That's my only reason we opposed that idea, is that I would stop getting paid in an anarchy society.
Oh, I forgot to do my joke when we were talking about the MSNBC guy about being a political commentator and thinking that somehow qualifies you to serve in the military.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Oh, man. All right.
Anyways. Thank you guys. It's been a great show. We'll see you guys not next Sunday.
Yes, we'll either be on Saturday or 2 weeks again, because I think we have this like every year around this time. Is just there's so much stuff going on. But we will do our best to be back next week, though it'll likely be on Saturday. Definitely not Sunday, but probably Saturday.
Yeah,
unless Dyer says no.
You're good.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you guys maybe next week.
Yep. Have a good week.
And tell your mom you love them.
Yes. And, pet your CNN Pluses if you got them, because, you don't know how long them things are going to be around.
Don't touch them. They touch kids.
I think, like, some radioactive elements have longer half-lives, too.
A lot of things have longer lives than
you could have caught and recovered from COVID in 22 days.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
It should be